welcome everyone to a very, very packed Frieze Talks. I think the understatement of the year would be, you know, to make out that you don't all know who Vivienne is, and I think that's just, I'm just not going to waste time with that. But I would like to say thanks so much, first of all, to Vivienne Westwood to agree to participate in Frieze Talks. Also just to say, do get prepared for what will not be a talk that you might be expecting. I'm not quite sure what I'm expecting at this point, other than I really felt that Vivienne had something to say. And when we spoke about this particular event in the prelude, it was very, very clear that Vivienne has much to say of great urgency that will also be very much about the future. So without further ado, will you join me in giving Vivienne Westwood a round of applause?
Thank you and welcome. And I'm going to be talking about painting, but it means the other arts as well. It's quite true, I do think my opinions are quite heretical. I don't consider that they're part of the dogma today, and I think art absolutely thrives only under a dogma. And so mostly the stuff that passes for art I have no interest in. And you know, so I won't, but I'd rather not comment on it too much. I mean, just leave it like that. But I sort of oppose it because art gives culture, and I don't think that anything that's being done today that I know of does that. And so, you know, we had consumption throughout the 20th century. We've still got it. We're destroying the planet, and if we had culture, things would be different. So I think what I'll just do, first of all, is give you a definition of culture. And I took this from Matthew Arnold, and I mentioned that because I might say one or two other things about Matthew Arnold. He wrote a book called Culture and Anarchy. He said that culture is the pursuit of our perfection by means of getting to know the best that has ever been thought and said and in the world. And through that knowledge, casting a stream of fresh and free thought upon all our stock notions and habits. In other words, culture is something that is alive, and you can, by judging, if you understand the past, you can criticize the world you live in two ways. You can criticize it saying it was better then, that was a good idea that we've forgotten all about, or it can be things are terrible and we could make them better. So it's a way of not being complacent and just thinking that, well, the 20th century was a totally complacent age. Just follow the latest thing, that's all you had to do, and everything was going to get better and better. But we know that wasn't true. Matthew Arnold talks a lot about the will of God. Now, I don't have a religious belief, but I'd like to tell you what I think he means by that. And I think he's talking about evolution, human evolution. You'll see what I mean. I adore the concept of God, the idea of something perfect. And the idea of evolution in this concept is that we can become more and more perfect by becoming more near to God. That's the idea. And so when he talks about the will of God, what he means is that we are trying to get closer to our own perfection. And we are the species, human beings, and I believe that what he means by that is our human genius, meaning the thing that makes us human, genus, you know what that means, generations, it means a species. And so our human genius is the epitome of what we can be. And Matthew Arnold talks about our best self. That's what we need. We should always follow our best self and be careful that we're doing that. And I think we do that by following our deep curiosity, by trying to understand the world. And so this is all of what I mean by culture, that culture would give human beings the power to evolve. We started off as bacteria. We're the most amazing species on Earth. We can do things that other creatures can't do. And one of the things we can do is we can make art. If we understand the past, then we will understand the world we live in. We are the past, and the human race is our past. And for this reason, I consider the art lover to be a freedom fighter for a better world. Right, now then. The next thing is that when I was teaching in Berlin, I was teaching there for 13 years, and I used to go 7 or 8 times a year, and I used to go there 7 or 8 times a year for about 4 days. So what I did is we read books. We read Brave New World, 1984, the most important books of the 20th century, Anatole France, The Gods Will Have Blood. I definitely recommend that. Translated from the French, Les Dieux ont soif. It's in Penguin. It's a wonderful book. And I sent them to the art galleries, because I said I'm not teaching people who don't read and who don't go to the art galleries. So that's what we did. And I said to them, before you move from one room to the next, imagine if the fire bell went, which painting would you save? And I said, if you keep going every week, every month, in 6 months, you wouldn't choose that painting. You'd choose another one. You'd think, my God, did I really think that this girl with these tears and everything was so genuine and wonderful? And this here is much more truthful. Now I understand something, you know? And so what we're talking about is discrimination. What discrimination means in the case of art, when you look at paintings, it is the best is the enemy of the good. You might think something's good, but when you see something better, then you're not so interested in the good anymore. So it's very much about discrimination. Now then, if we had true culture, because that's what we're talking about, art gives culture. And so if we did have true culture, we would not have climate change. You know, I'm an activist, and I'm absolutely desperate to know what to do to communicate as quickly as possible to everybody the danger that we're in. Thank God there's thousands of other NGOs, not only me. They're the only people who know what's going on in this world, the activists. Now then, we would have different values. And my husband, Andreas, I was supposed to be helping him to do our top ladies' fashion collection. And I was obviously spending too much time with my activism and our NGO called Climate Revolution. And he said a dress, you know, is the most important thing in the world. And he said, if there's nothing more revolutionary than a dress, and if people would only buy beautiful things, that would be climate revolution. So he was trying to make me do this dress. Anyway, I think that in the early 20th century, a shift occurred in the concept of art, the concept of culture. The work of art, the object, was considered not so much to have a value intrinsic to itself, did not have its own significant value. It was only relative to the opinion of the viewer, so that was the shift. It wasn't that the work had the value, it was the eye of the beholder that had the value. And in a modern age of democracy, I've written, every arbitrary opinion is now accepted to be as good as the rest. You know, I've got my own opinion. But if you remember when I was talking about discrimination, an opinion is formed. That's why I sent those kids to the art gallery. To form their own opinion, you build it up, like I said, through judgment. By the way, if there are no judges, there is no art. So we've got a problem with the artists and the judges, I believe. Is there a crazy logic going on here? Anybody can be an artist, that's the idea, isn't it? We're all equal, we've got democracy. Just do your thing, you can be an artist. Why doesn't somebody say, well, would you like to be an artist? Perhaps you'd rather be a brain surgeon, do that. You know, I mean, it's not so easy, is it? Anybody can be an artist. And we don't really need skill anymore. Art schools, some of them have started teaching drawing again, but everything's based on the transfer in the painting. Everything's based on the transfer from the brain to the hand. You know, it's like automatic, but it's a skill that you build, and it's wonderful because that is the transmission of spirit and soul and all your human qualities onto your work through which you are expressing yourself. So anybody can be an artist, but care about the presentation skills. I think this is a dogma that's going on today. Make it look like you took a lot of trouble to say nothing. Say as little as possible. People will think this is important. They'll think they can discover something in there. And they'll think it's very profound and it'll be relevant because they will discuss it. Yeah, okay, right, that's what I think. So, less discrimination, more consumption. It was the age of the iconoclast, the 20th century. That means you smash the mould, you smash the images. And the dogma was to break tradition. Now, what I'm really saying here is that culture is tradition. You can't break the tradition. The dogma was just keep up with the times, follow the latest thing, forget the past. And the break succeeded in painting. Although Matisse and Picasso, they were born in the 19th century, and I do believe that their great power as artists was something coming from the culture of the 19th century and those traditions. There are still people, of course, today, exceptions. Francis Bacon, you can all think of people who are still exceptions, who did not break the tradition. Telling the artist to break with tradition is like telling the scientist to smash his laboratory. Because if you break tradition, you kill spontaneity. This thing, this transmission from the hand to the mind, you kill it, because the artist becomes self-conscious, too preoccupied with himself mostly, trying to be original by starting from himself. What a panic, you know, I've got to create something. Where from? Something different, new. Apparently this exhibition here is so new that it has to start at 2000, you know, okay? Trying to be original by starting from himself, something different. So how contrived that is, and I'm afraid that in my view, it's like I've seen it 17 times already. Spontaneity. It can be quick, but it can take ages. I know this from fashion design. It's something you discover as you go along. think of Matisse going over and over, rubbing things out, cutting things again, over and over, trying to catch the idea he was after, until he tried everything and he was satisfied. I'm just going to take a little diversion here and just say that I saw an exhibition of Matisse, more than once, but I saw a very big one that was amazing. And it was very interesting to see photographs of him at work. And the nude model was here, and he was practically on top of it with his thing. And just no wonder they were so sexy, that's what I wanted to say. So, great art is always original. Always original. It's new, no matter when it was done. If it's a cave painting from 20,000 BC, it's original. In his essay, one of the most important essays ever written regarding art, T.S. Eliot, his essay is called Tradition and the Original Talent. And this essay, it is the proof of what I'm saying, that great art is always original. And he says that the test of that, the proof of it, is that if the new work fits into the tradition, then it's original. And the tradition changes and it moves to include the new work. And if the work is just something, seen it 17 times already, doesn't go in there, it just, gets lost. So I think that's a terribly important thing to understand. There is no progress in art. Otherwise, Picasso would be greater than Titian, and Titian is not greater than the cave painters of 20,000 BC, because they're all so great. There's no progress in art because art is perfect. That's what it's aiming for, and that's when Matisse stopped. When he'd done what he saw was perfect. And so that is the thing about art, it is perfect. And if it's perfect, how can it progress? No, it stays perfect forever. There's no progress because art is always original, as alive today as when it was first done. Each work is a vision captured by an individual. The artist changes, we change, and the world changes. So, it's like looking down the end of a telescope, the wrong end of the telescope. All the paintings in the world are our culture. They all tell a story from the time they were done. And we can look at them because it's always alive, because it's got meaning. It's got something in there that we can relate to. And we can see something of the reality behind it. Although we can never step into the same river twice. And that's another reason why it's always original. We can always see it fresh, always seeing it something we didn't see before. I was already saying that there's no progress in art because it's perfect. It's universal. That means that everybody can understand it potentially. They can. There's something in there that has meaning that they can understand. And it's also timeless. This is something that humans can do. It's what makes us human, although animals can do it too. They can do what I'm about to say. The world is spinning and we are part of the flux, but we can stop the world. Abstract a moment in time and pin it down by a representation. We can freeze, what might call freeze in that sense is fair, but anyway, we can freeze time in that painting. That's what makes it timeless. We stop the world for a moment and extract something. It's universal because it's knowledge. It's capable of meaning through direct experience. You get it. You don't get it at first, you might. The Greeks called art imitation. You might have heard recently in some of my fashion shows, I've given the title mirror the world. We should mirror the world. We should be a little piece of the world. And so it's like a little shard of glass, but everything's in there that belongs in the world. And art can mirror the world as well. But the Greeks called art imitation because although it mirrors the world, it's not real. We're copying something, but it's not real. The flux is what's real, and we can never grasp what that is. Everything's relative, difficult. You have to pin it down to have knowledge. You have to keep pinning things down. Animals do that. You have to stop the world to understand it. Our experience comes to us through signs and sensations, direct experience abstracted from the flux. A little beetle can do that. It knows what to do. It's got something tells it to run away or whatever it tells it to do. Because of this, some people say that science and everything we make is art. The Eiffel Tower, for example. But no, it seems the Greeks got it right, because art is the only thing we make that is not real. Art is imitation, and that's what we can do, that's what human beings can do. No other creature can do that. One thing is that I don't agree that abstract art is art. I'll tell you why. A square is not art. Red canvas seeping into brown paint, that's not art. They're just, because they're not subjects, they don't have meaning, they're just qualities. They are qualities. They aren't anything that we can all relate to. And therefore they can't give culture. So there's no focus, no ambience, just an ambience and no meaning. They don't have an idea that we can potentially all share, therefore they don't give culture. And I reject them just on that basis, whether you think they're very decorative or you like sitting there and every time you do, you meditate. I mean, I really don't know, because if you meditate, you're going to meditate different than I would, and I wouldn't have the patience, I'm afraid, to sit there. Coming quite near the end, except I want to tell you that about this knowledge, and that knowledge is something that is non-verbal. It's something not on the level of our self-consciousness, of our consciousness. And I want to give you an example of that. There's a fantastic book called Stoner. Everybody's reading it. It was written in the 1965 and it's just been rediscovered anyway. And Stoner is the name of the man in the book. And the best thing about it, he's born around 1900, incredibly poor, and he lives on a farm, and his father realises that there's a course in soil and agricultural chemistry at the university, which is 40 miles away. And so this poor boy walks there. When he gets a place in this university, his father thinks he should go there. And so he's got a foundation course in his first term at school, and he has to study literature. It's part of the foundation course. Actually, I think it's in his second year that he has to study the literature. And he can't, it's totally new to him. And he doesn't understand how it's useful to him, and he's really got a problem. He just doesn't somehow doesn't get it. And he's sitting at his desk, absolutely gripping the desk, his knuckles are white, trying to understand what this teacher is telling him. And this teacher, he's got kind of contempt for his students, but it's not really contempt, it's got a contempt for himself, because he knows he's a lover of literature, the teacher, and he knows he can never communicate what he knows. and so he's a little bit irritable, and it's very funny. And you know, Mr. Stoner, because it's a Shakespeare sonnet. Mr. Stoner, Shakespeare speaks to you from 300 years ago. What does it mean? You know, I mean, and this poor Stoner, he doesn't know what's going on. And all of a sudden, this teacher quotes this sonnet, and his voice changes because he loves it, and he falls in love with his sonnet for the 1000th time probably. And when it stops, he asks Stoner again, what's the meaning? And Stoner can't answer, and he just looks at his hands, and they've completely opened up, the fingers have uncurled, and he looks at the fingernails, how they fit into the skin, and he sees the sunlight on somebody's face. And this is when he falls in love with this literature. He knows it, he understands something has happened to him that is visceral, it's to do with, it's totally physical. And so that's it, and he's in the same position as his teacher. He can never pass on that knowledge, but nevertheless he becomes a teacher, he changes, he takes the literature course, he doesn't go home to the farm, he feels very terrible that, you know, he didn't go and help his mother and father who really suffer because of the hard work there, but he stays to be a teacher because he believes in this knowledge, and he tries to communicate it, and that is what the book is about him being a teacher. And he's so true to himself. That's what the triumph of the book is. He really is. And there are one or two people in the book who are really self-deceiving, and the harm that they can do people who are not true to themselves. But it's a fantastic book, and you should read it. And so this knowledge, it doesn't necessarily happen all at once like that, but it can be that you've seen something somewhere, and you're just looking at a painting and something connects from something you already know. And so what we're talking about is stuff that's nothing to do with words. And actually in a poem, even in a poem itself, even a poem where the sound of the words and the images they conjure up are so present, nevertheless even the words of a wonderful poem can get in the way of the poem. You've got to get it, you know. That is what art can do. That's what culture's about. Culture can talk about these things, but knowledge is something that everybody has to find for themselves. Well, I've got to tell you a couple of things. There was going to be a map on here, but they didn't succeed to get it on. But some of you have got a leaflet that we gave out, which I give out to everybody. It's the most important thing I've ever done, because it shows people the danger we're in from climate change. The terrible, terrible thing today is that everybody acts as if nothing's changed, as if nothing's happened. The press is just awful. I might talk about that again, but that is what gives us a feeling of, it gives me a feeling of living in a mad, mad world, because the reality of what we face is just completely avoided. It's mad, it's absolutely mad, and we've got to try and do something. Before I talk about the painting, I want to raise money for the painting in some way. I want to just say that the proceeds would go to Cool Earth. Cool Earth, I've got to tell you about that quickly. It's a charity that will save the rainforest, all those great equatorial rainforests, all of them. It will save them by 2020. It's been going for about 5 years. It's already raised probably somewhere between 15 and 20 million pounds. And the reason that it did that is because a country, Peru, one of the countries that this forest, you know, is next to, they joined the scheme, and so they contributed more than probably Cool Earth managed to raise. What is going on is that it was hands-on. I don't want to take too long over this, I'll try and be really quick. And what Cool Earth does, they work with the native people, the indigenous people, who have whole histories. They fought wars to protect their rainforest and everything. And so what you do, you work with them, and Cool Earth gives. They don't buy the land; they secure their legal right to the land that they own, and they give them money or help to the value of what the loggers would give if they let them in to chop down their forest. And so it's not very much money, because the loggers live on a much lower income than we do. So Cool Earth might help them to make coffee better so that they can export it. Necklaces, all kinds of little things like that are very important to them. They can make money from these lovely little beaded necklaces and things. Schools, all this kind of thing, they help them. Most important for those people is access to health care, because a hospital isn't very near. So they started, and the position they're in at the moment is that they ring fence the rainforest. If you go around the edge, then the loggers can't get in, and you protect all the middle as well. And they've got queues of tribal people waiting to join this scheme to link it all up. And so this is what I'm trying to do, is to raise money for this. Now then, when they started, they had a budget of 100. I'll just say, first of all, I will say this, that I thought, when I first realised what was the problem in the world, I thought, what can we do? We have to save the rainforest. Before we do anything else, we've got to save the rainforest, lungs of the world. If we don't save that, forget it. So I've tried to find out, and one team of people who were trying to save the rainforest, I asked them how much it would cost, and they said 30 billion. And I thought, well, that's not so much. I mean, the money that's wasted in the world, 30 billion, okay. Let's try and help and join these people. Nothing ever happened, because it was a top-down organisation. The World Bank has got quite a lot of money that's been given to them to save the rainforest. They haven't spent it yet, except on discussions and administration. They've had it for probably 10 years. They've not used it. If we had it, we could. Anyway, Cool Earth's budget is it was £114 million. That's all to save this forest with this plan. So what are we doing in this world if we can't raise that amount of money immediately to save the world? I went to the polling station, which was held in a school, and on the wall was this collage, and it's ever so sweet, and this is really, really lovely. This collage, it's a teacher with little children, 5, 6 years old, and they made this collage, and they're just doing their writing and describing what monkeys do and what whales do, and I think it's just really, really lovely and sweet, and it's about love, it's about the teacher teaching them, and it's about innocence and trust as well. And of course everybody knows that the kids in school are really interested in the environment and the animals. So I thought, and I think what's really lovely about it is when they've written their writing, because it makes the language so artistic, so creative. They've written something backwards, or they've put a double O for an ooh sign, which you wouldn't normally have or something, and you find yourself going, and really the language is like newborn somehow because of the way they've written it. It's really, really creative and lovely, I think, this thing. I thought, wonder if, when they take that painting down, I could somehow or other get somebody to buy it and give the money to the rainforest, and then these children could have contributed to what I've just been talking about. So I had this in my mind, and then Gregor asked me to do this talk here, this here, and the thing was, this is, but I think now we're getting into something a bit crazy. I feel it's really, really crazy, because I'm talking about how do we save the world from mass extinction. And I'm here with a kid's collage saying, let's save the world with this collage. And so I just feel like the enormity of the task and the littleness of the means to accomplish the task is just crazy. And I think we do live in a crazy world, and as an activist, I'm always thinking, you know, I just feel like I'm insane sometimes. I really do, because it just is awful. It doesn't make sense. And we didn't have time to work out how to sell it anyway. So I'm just going to say we're going to do it, and Teddy, I hope that Teddy will just be able to tell us some idea of what we are going to do to try to sell it. But how much is it worth? Is it relevant? Who would buy this? Who buys what's out there? I mean, I just... Maybe we have a raffle, and then one person wins the raffle, and then either they can keep it themselves or we can donate it to an institution. And I thought, what a great idea, what an art event it would be if we donated it to one of these empty flats that's in the high-rise building where nobody's even collected the key yet. And maybe that's the place for it. I really don't know, but I just feel I'm getting more and more crazy. So I don't know how we're going to do it. I just think I've had enough, and I'm just going to get down on this floor and wait till somebody comes and gets me. That's it.
Okay, I'm Teddy. I'm in charge of
Because this is the real madness. There is a price on this. And the price would be, we've got a project with Cool Earth where they need £2 million for an extra project to save a place in Papua New Guinea that would be turned into a palm plantation to keep the old rainforest there. That's that. Or, even more accurately, this painting should be worth £100 million, because that's what we need to give Cool Earth to save the rainforest. And if whoever wants to pay that kind of money for it, there's a space here, and we could witness the fact that they can write their name and they can put, "I saved the rainforest." And then perhaps this painting would be relevant. Okay.